President Donald Trump has just finished his first 60 days in office, and in those 60 days, his greatest enemy has already been revealed to him. And no, it's not China or Russia. His greatest enemy, as it turns out, is likely our very own United States District Court judges. Federal District Court judges are undercutting President Donald Trump and challenging him left and right. This is enraging many MAGA supporters and Trump voters, and they are stating that many of these judges are massively overstepping their judicial bounds, as well as possibly violating their oaths, as it seems like they are failing to remain partial. Are these district court judges out of control, or are they simply just trying to stop a tyrant from abusing his presidential power? One thing is for sure, these federal district court judges have issued more injunctions on President Trump in his first 60 days than they did collectively for both President Joe Biden's presidency and Barack Obama's presidency combined. And that's 8 years for Obama plus Joe Biden's 4 years. So what's the deal? Are we witnessing a possible judicial coup? Let's look over a few individual attempts by individual judges and examine them case by case. And the first case is the biggest one so far because it made headlines over the last weekend. It's Judge James Boasberg, and he issued an injunction on President Trump's use of the Enemy Aliens Act of 1798. Now, the story here is President Donald Trump reinvoked this Enemy Aliens Act of 1798, coinciding with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who declared that all cartel members are now recognized officially as terrorists by America. Because of Rubio doing this, Trump is lawfully now using the Enemy Aliens Act of 1798 to deport dangerous Venezuelan gangsters out of our country, and to do it at a rapid rate. These actions seem like something that nobody in their right mind could complain about, but not for James Boasberg. In his injunction, he went on to state last weekend that these deportations needed to temporarily halt for now while he re-examined the 1798 law to make sure that Trump was using it correctly. He even had the nerve to insist that if flights had already taken off, that they were to turn back around and land in America with these Venezuelan thugs on board. You heard that right. He wanted them to come back to America when they had criminals on the flight going down to prison. Here's the true verdict on Judge James Boasberg. When it comes to him trying to issue an injunction on the president dealing with foreign affairs, he has very little, if any, power in actuality to do that. You see, when a president of our country is acting on a matter of national security and dealing with foreign affairs, judges' powers in that scenario are at their lowest possible. It is the president's job to deal with these matters, not the judges. And because President Trump re-invoked that law, and because Secretary of State Marco Rubio properly labeled the cartel members as terrorists, I see no way for any judge to be able to undo these deportations that Trump is carrying out. It also is not a very popular stance, as even many Democrats support these deportations and admit that border security is important. Once again, judges are not appointed to deal with foreign threats. The fact that Judge Boasberg honestly thought he could make some sort of ruling like this, an injunction, and that ICE agents and law enforcement officers and the military would obey him over the commander-in-chief is laughable. Even more recently than the James Boasberg incident from last weekend, we have Judge Anna Reyes, a Biden-appointed judge who has an agenda that she's barely even trying to hide. Early on in his term, President Donald Trump quickly moved to reinstate a ban on transgenders from serving in the military. President Trump clearly and objectively stated that it was about combat readiness and not ideology. And to help cement this motion, President Trump nominated the now sworn-in Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, who was very happy upon being sworn in to follow through on President Trump's orders. Upon reaching the Pentagon, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth formally issued a ban on transgenders from serving in the military. And who do you think was watching very displeased from these sidelines? None other than Judge Anna Reyes. And mind you, Judge Anna Reyes is on the record stating that she's not sure if there's a biological difference in the sexes between men and women. Yet, for some reason, she seems confident enough to stick her nose in military business and determine determine proper science for not only the military, but also she feels it's appropriate to determine military procedure and policies. When it comes to the scenario with Judge Anna Reyes and President Trump, it once again just goes back to official titles in my opinion. Anna Reyes is a district court judge. Donald Trump is the commander-in-chief. If there's two things a president has the utmost control over, it's foreign policy and the military. Trump advisor Stephen Miller summarized this Anna Reyes situation perfectly when he was quoted saying about it, "District court judges have decided that they are now in command of our armed forces. Is there no end to this madness?" Once again, we have another example of a district court judge, this time Theodore Chwang, taking aim at President Trump and blocking his efforts to remove wasteful bureaucracy. Everyone knows by now President Donald Trump and Elon Musk have developed quite the close working relationship together while President Trump is in office. Forming the Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk and DOGE have notoriously now been targeting various different government entities and organizations and departments, auditing them ruthlessly and cutting waste. Most infamously, perhaps, Elon Musk's work with U.S. aid in the form of audits have exposed extremely wasteful government spending, bloat, and just disastrous funding of ridiculous projects that you couldn't even hope to dream of. But now District Court Judge Theodore Chwang is taking a look at Elon Musk's audits of U.S. aid and is deciding that these are likely unconstitutional actions from Elon Musk. So he is now trying to halt the entire operation. And in cases like this, you have to ask why. I'm going to lay it out for you like this. There's a pattern here with these judges coming out of nowhere seemingly and halting President Donald Trump from fulfilling his campaign promises and his mission in office. You see, the pattern here is President Trump's actions are anti-establishment. Trump's very mission is to remove wasteful bureaucracy, and that is essentially the entire establishment left. And as they all watch their hard work crumble over the years, this giant swamp that they have spent years building, they are now leaning on these small district court judges and the limited power that they have, because they're just powerful enough to slow down President Trump. And truthfully, this is the last line of defense that the establishment left has left. But with all that being said, these judges who are rising up against him need to face some sort of consequence. So what can be done about this? This is where we would actually call upon Speaker Mike Johnson to begin the impeachment proceedings of each and every one of these judges immediately. These judges have issued these injunctions on bad faith. They have failed to uphold their oath to practice law impartially, and they are a disgrace to their positions and an insult to the American people.